And to be honest with you, if I'm being, totally candid, I felt like fifth grade, I felt like I was crying every day. And because I didn't have anyone to advocate for me, and it wasn't like I had brothers and sisters. And so, literally, every day, I felt like I was literally crying tears. And I just think that was such a painful time for me when I was growing up. Because imagine when you know that you're smart. Like my test, I was reading at a 12th grade level when I was 10. So all of
Mm.
my test scores, all of my stuff said, this child is here. And you're trying to not just steal her joy, but you're trying to suppress her. And why would you do that to someone who's 10? And so for me at that time, I didn't know how to deal with it. And so during that time, I honestly was crying a lot. And then, like, at some point, two things happen, like self-preservation and God come together, and you figure out, like, I have to kind of rally for myself. I have to advocate for myself. And I remember that, even when I was talking to the teacher, from that point forward, the way that I was talking to him was like, when I say was like an adult, it was like matter of fact. Like, these are my assignments. This is what I've done. I'm watching what's going on here. I know the scores of everybody else. And so I expect to be treated the same. And I had to literally, like, at that age, step up into that. And which is why I think sometimes, I can be just matter of fact, like just direct, because my thing is being indirect hasn't been helpful for most people in most situations. So you got to say what you want, and you have to say what you need. And that
Message.
that was the moment that I knew that
Mm.
I would forever need to behave differently than maybe some of my counterparts, because I wasn't going to be given the benefit of the doubt.
Mm.
Where where
So,
where were you raised at, Jacqueline? What state? Where were you raised?
But I was raised in California,
Oh,
right? So
okay, California. Okay,
I was raised in Northern California,
okay.
which honestly, if you kind of think about it, the assumption is like, oh, that state doesn't have those kinds of concerns. That's not true.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
That's that's just not true.
right.
And I think every place has an opportunity to rise up and be great, or to kind of not and kind of live down to an expectation. And in that time, they were not being great.
yeah. So I'm just like, wow, what a childhood to have, and the lessons you learned. How did you bring them into like to your work today, into your life like now?
Well, one of the things I remember when I was uh, talking to, his name is Dr. Dennis Humphrey, and I've known him almost my entire life, probably since I was about 10 or 11 years old. And eventually, Dennis got a PhD, and he's an organizational development person. And he said to me, "You're the I've always known you to be this way." And what he meant was, I've always known you to kind of fight for yourself. And he just didn't know me in fifth grade when I wasn't and couldn't fight for myself. And so, what I would
Yeah.
say of what that means in today's world is that I understand the what I would call levels of inequity that kind of surround us, and that we have to really pay attention to those, and then try to mitigate the situations where it doesn't feel as equitable as we would like for it to be. And the only way that I know to do that is really to advocate for yourself. And I know that sounds easier said than done. um, but what I will tell you is, it's everyone, just like when I met Jared, and he is exactly what he said. He linked in me, and and he also DM'd me in the Cans app, and I was like, "Hey, great! This is I hadn't been to the festival before. This is my first time." He says, "Come see me, come through." And he was just so supportive. And instantly, I felt like, even though I hadn't been there before, I felt like I had a tribe. I was like, I don't have a tribe, but somehow I've like lucked into someone who contacted me and wants to be me to be like part of them and what they're doing. And so I would say
Right.
for everything, you have to identify those persons that can be supportive of whatever your goals are. And to me, that's the first thing that you need to do. So everyone kind of doesn't really think about that in a intentional and methodical way. And you're not, quote, using people, you're just thinking about it with intentionality.
Yeah.
Like, who do I need help to do X or Y? And the other thing that I would say is, just like Jared said, oh, she came and she sat in the front row. She did, because honestly, there is not a single person who's ever contacted me on LinkedIn that I probably haven't said yes to. That if someone reached out to me and they said, "Hey, I just have a question about this," or "I need help with," for the most part, like, I mean, obviously I don't do it for everything, but for the most part, I try to be responsive, because when I'm responsive, I find that that just comes back to me in spades.
Message.
Yeah.
But how do you vet that though? I'm curious, you being who you are and what you've accomplished, right? For me, it could be some people I reach out to as stranger danger. With you, it was a different vibe. You was just like, yo, I'm there. I'm so glad. Like, I'm just curious, what was the interaction like before then? Like, how do you vet who to reach out to and who to
I
connect?
will 100%. I go to somebody's profile. Like, I go to people's profiles. I try to understand what they've done, what their history is, what they, all of the things. I don't just like all of a sudden, because of course, to your point, we all get people reaching out to us that's like, why would you reach
Why
out to
are
me?
we doing it? Yeah.
We have nothing, there's nothing for us to talk about. I don't even know why you reached out to me. We all have that.
Yeah.
But
It's
what
what do you want?
yeah, but what I would say is, I do take the time to kind of go through the profile, look at who they are. I also look at who's connected to other people that I know. So if you contact me and there's nobody that we have in our circles that are connected, then it's probably a wrap. I'm probably not going to respond, because I don't know you. At this point, I don't, you have more followers than I do, but at this point, I have 11,000 people that are somehow in my network. And so if in my network, I can't find like at least 5 or 10 people that we have a connection to, then it means that it's probably not the right kind of connection.
Message.
I
That's real.
I know we talking about it, but I feel like it's another part to standing up for yourself that I feel like a lot we don't talk about, and it's the accountability of the other person.
I
It's
think
the accountability of the other person.